In today's rapidly evolving world, the need for intellectual revolution has never been greater. The traditional ways of thinking and learning are no longer sufficient to tackle the complex challenges we face. Our goal is to foster a community of critical thinkers, innovators, and change makers who are committed to pushing the boundaries of knowledge and making a positive impact on the world.
Intellectual revolution in Middle East.
The intellectual revolution in the Middle East was a significant period of cultural and intellectual transformation that had far-reaching consequences for the region's history. It marked a departure from traditional Islamic thought and an embrace of Western ideas, particularly in the fields of science, philosophy, and politics. The legacy of this movement can still be seen today in the region's intellectual and cultural life, as well as its political institutions.
What is the intellectual revolution all about? The intellectual revolution in the Middle East refers to a period of significant intellectual and cultural transformation that began in the late 19th century and continued into the 20th century. This movement was characterized by a rejection of traditional Islamic thought and an embrace of Western ideas, particularly in the fields of science, philosophy, and politics. The intellectual revolution was driven by a desire to modernize and reform society, and it had far-reaching consequences for the region's history, culture, and politics. Who was the key figure in the revolution from the Middle East? There were several key figures in the intellectual revolution in the Middle East, but some of the most prominent include
Jamal al-Din al-Afghani 1838 to 1897,
a Persian philosopher and political activist who advocated for the adoption of Western science and technology. Al-Afghani believed that Islam could be reconciled with modernity, and he called for a synthesis of traditional Islamic values with Western knowledge.
Muhammad Abdu 1849 to 1905,
an Egyptian scholar who played a major role in the reform of Islamic thought. Abdu argued that Islam was compatible with modern science and that Muslims should embrace scientific inquiry as a means of understanding the natural world.
Rashid Rida 1865 to 1935,
a Syrian writer and religious scholar who played a major role in the Salafiyya movement, which sought to revive traditional Islamic values and practices. Rida also advocated for the adoption of Western science and technology, but he believed that they should be integrated into Islamic society in a way that was consistent with traditional Islamic values.
Taha Hussein 1889 to 1973,
an Egyptian writer and intellectual who played a major role in the Nahda Renaissance movement, which sought to revitalize Arabic culture and literature. Hussein was a proponent of secularism and modernism, and he advocated for the adoption of Western educational and cultural practices.
Kemal Ataturk 1881 to 1938,
the founder of modern Turkey, Atatürk led a series of reforms that transformed Turkey into a secular, democratic state. Atatürk was deeply influenced by Western ideas, particularly in the fields of science, education, and politics, and he sought to modernize Turkish society along Western lines.
How did the revolution advance modern science and scientific thinking at the time?
The intellectual revolution that took place in the Middle East during the 9th and 10th centuries at 3rd and 4th centuries all significantly advanced modern science and scientific thinking in several ways. The intellectual revolution that took place in the Middle East during this time significantly advanced modern science and scientific thinking through the preservation and translation of ancient texts, advancements in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and the promotion of scientific inquiry through institutions such as madrasas and observatories.
What were the controversies met in that chosen intellectual revolution and how they were resolved?
The intellectual revolution that took place in the Middle East during the 9th and 10th centuries at 3rd and 4th centuries all was not without controversy. The controversies met in this intellectual revolution were resolved through the arguments and contributions of scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina al-Battani, and Ibn al-Haytham, who integrated philosophy, observation, and experimentation into Islamic scholarship and developed a synthesis between Islamic theology and Greek philosophy.
Revolution is not just about overthrowing a government or changing a system. It's about challenging the way we think, the way we perceive the world around us. It's about an intellectual revolution. These intellectual revolutions were not just confined to academic circles. They inspired social movements and political change.